You know what? Let's just start this now. All right.
Yeah,
Hello,
just
Trust. I've never spoken to you before. It's a wonderful to meet you, man.
yeah, man. Nice to meet you too. I've never talked to you ever, but
Yep.
it's good to be here.
Hell yeah. Um, First off, I know your day like just started, so like I was gonna ask like
Yeah,
how how has the day been treating you for the past like hour that you've been awake?
it's been good. I mean, I woke up and then got on webfishing to do this interview, but I'm not gonna lie.
Hell yeah.
I
Oh my
I
god.
didn't. I don't have anything else to do today. Wow, pretty good day though.
Okay,
How about?
so well, my first question is well, obviously I know you quite a bit, but like I never
Yeah.
like got into like the lore of how trust came to be trust, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask like, what like led you to this like what led you to the point that you are at now where you are now like semi like
Okay.
well-known artist, especially in the community.
I could start from there's 2 points actually I'd say because there's two very crucial points. There's when I got the doll that I use, and
Mhm.
then there's when I first started uploading music on SoundCloud. I could start from the beginning, I guess,
You can
because I
start.
feel like
Just start wherever you
yeah,
want. To be honest.
I feel like okay. So in what was it? The Christmas of 2018,
Mhm.
I got FL Studio from my uncle or my godfather, you know, and I I kind of used it. I knew I wanted to make music in some capacity, but then I never kind of like I didn't know what to do. I
Yeah.
thought I was like too young. I was like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I kind of like throughout 2019 I was like I don't know what I'll make like little things, but I don't know where this is gonna take me at all. You know, because I didn't know how any distribution worked. I didn't know how SoundCloud worked, like anything. You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, and then 2020 came along, and obviously we know what happened in 2020.
Yep.
Um,
Good old lockdown.
Quarantine was terrible. And I mean prior to that some family issues and stuff happened. So I was kind of just in a very like depressed state.
Yeah.
And all I really had was just like okay, I have FL Studio. I'm making music. I'm still pretty ass, but like I see people making music that I like, and that would
Mhm.
be like the digicore scene, hyperpop scene, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me try this stuff. And I my first vocal song actually was the first song I put out where I did vocals. Like the first ever time I did and recorded vocals
Mhm.
was the first song I put out. And that was like December 2020 when I
Okay.
put that shit out. And it was ass. It was so terrible. It was Roblox core, bro. It was
Yeah.
Roblox core. It was
That.
so ass. And I thought I was gonna get in Slow Silver 03. Like genuinely, I was like, maybe I have a chance.
In the people that I've like spoken to, all of them have said like they either started out with meme rap or Roblox core. Like there's never
Yeah, dude.
anything
Oh
in
my
between.
god.
That was like a trend back then. Just hell yeah,
Yeah, I
hopping on
think
like
cause I don't know. I think partially because it was such a like, it was easy to make shit like that because it was kind of just have fun, you know? Like
yeah.
it's easy to have fun and not make like some serious music. I took it very serious though for some reason. I was like, yeah, this is gonna do good, and obviously it didn't.
Mhm.
And then yeah, so I'd kind of just went into 2021 making more Roblox core and like some digicore stuff. But the thing is, the weird thing about it is that like I never thought about it like, oh, I'm gonna be a digicore artist or I'm gonna be a Roblox core artist like ever. You know, like I always wanted to make like
Mhm.
I don't know, like I was just I saw it as just like learning and getting into a community that could like help me learn how to make good music.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see it as like okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna get big making digicore, and I'm gonna play digicore shows. Like I didn't, I wanted to make like I wanted to make the music I make now, but I was like ass.
Yeah.
So, but then I mean, 2021, yeah, I kind of made some friends and even in 2020, I made my first group of friends. Shout out to like all of those people, dude. I don't know what they do much because I don't talk to them as much anymore, but they were like the people that really like led me to want to do or keep pursuing music.
Yeah.
So I'll always love them. And so in 2020, I want to say 2021, actually, I did change my name from my first previous name that I started with which was just my first name,
Yeah.
but without a letter. So yeah, so I thought it was like aesthetic or some shit. And then I changed it in 2021 to Never Trust, like spelled like NVRTRST. And
Oh.
I forget how I got it, but I think, and this is the worst way to get the name, I was like playing Roblox or something with my friends, and they were scrolling through like a user list or something, and I saw like a similar name, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I was like, let me make a similar name to that. And theirs was like NVR, like never some other word, and I was like, okay, Never Trust. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then I had it, and I was like, okay, I'm never changing my name again. And then 2022 comes, and I'm like, yeah, this name kind of fucking sucks. It feels like terrible to have
Mm-hmm.
like a name that like you don't know how to say it if you don't know me, and it just looks like edgy as shit.
Yeah, it looks
So I'm like,
it
okay,
looks really edgy.
yeah. So then let me just change it to Trust without. Well, first it was Trust without the second T. It was like literally just the word Trust.
Mm-hmm.
But that was taken so much on like every platform that it's like, okay, I'll just add the extra T, whatever. Which I think
Mm-hmm.
actually helped me because I feel like it's pretty
It's kind of it's
distinguishable
yeah,
to
it's
me.
pretty distinct.
Yeah.
Say, but also like this might be a little tangent, but like definitely around like recent times, you've talked about like like wanting to change your name again to just get rid of
Mm-hmm.
the S and the two T's to just like true or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Because I go
like
by True and like everywhere else. Like I mean, like that's like more of like that's like the nickname or like
yeah.
the name versus like Trust being like the artist name or whatever. But I kind of want to combine them at some point because I feel like I don't know, I feel like Trust to me still because that's like the name I went by when I joined Afflicted and kept doing digicore and shit. And I kind of I feel like I didn't come up with True, but like or I did come up with True, but like True became like the name that I went by
Yeah.
pretty like late into like where I started going, okay, like I don't want to do digicore anymore and I kind of want to just do the music I actually want to make.
Mhm.
And it was like late 2022, early 2023, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel like I don't know, the name thing with me is just so I don't know because I'm super focused on how I display like myself, I guess. Like I'm so hardcore about aesthetics. I'm so hardcore about
Yeah.
how everything sounds, how consistent everything is about my like artistry. Like I need everything to make sense to me. Like I don't care if it makes sense to you or not, but to me, I just
Yeah.
want it to convey like something.
Obviously, like, would you say like it's more like a kind of you kind of like have outgrown sort of that character, or not really a character, but just like that identity as Trust because
Hmm.
it's so heavily like seen as like, oh yeah, that's the dude from Afflicted and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, in some capacity, that's definitely true. I think when people see my name and like they're like, "Oh, I recognize you from somewhere. Were you in Afflicted?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I was." And I'll always be like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm proud to be have been in that place." But like for me now, cuz it's been I mean, how many years? It's been 3 years since Afflicted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like kind of like I think I have outgrown the name and like I've taken it with me to like where I'm now, obviously, and like people kind of associate it with my music, how like I've grown.
Yeah.
But in my head, it's just kind of stuck there a little. That's kind of like I feel like the final form of me would be under that true alias,
Yeah, I get you.
and then I just carry it for the rest of my life, basically making music. It's the best that I can see myself using.
Next, I want to talk about obviously you said last year that you were working on an album,
Mm-hmm. Oh
and
man.
you know, a lot of people might be like, "Oh, he said he's working on an album, but shit ain't dropped." Like what?
Yeah, no.
Like,
Okay.
but
Dude, oh my gosh.
like I just wanted to talk about like how's that process been like going for you. I mean, obviously I know, but like just like
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, shit. Okay. So like last year when I said I was making an album, I was talking about a completely different idea I had. I've had like literally when I dropped Your Best Sound and then
mhm.
Everything You Did to Me, those were supposed to be like the first two songs on the album I was working on, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like I was gonna do that whole thing. Like Everything You Did to Me was gonna be the album name and it was gonna be like that was gonna be what I worked on. But then I kinda didn't enjoy it anymore. So I kinda
Yeah.
scrapped the idea and then I was like, okay, I do want to make a project, but I make so much different shit and so much like it's hard to make something that sounds consistently good for more than like 3 4 songs, you know, until
Yeah.
my mind changes on how I want it to sound. So I was like, okay, I mean, I people are probably thinking I'll drop an album and I'm like gonna just try my best to make a bunch of songs. And that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I'm working on a project and I have quite a few songs already. And I mean, I will say that this isn't like the album, you know?
Mhm.
This is the album that I'm gonna try to make as like a showcase of everything I can do and everything that people should expect from me, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's just like what I love, the type of music I love, the type of stuff I want to make. But this isn't like I'll say that this year make I'm gonna make that and then I'm gonna put like all my focus into the album, like the defining album that will be like
Mhm.
where I feel like I'll be starting probably kind of I don't know, like I'll go from SoundCloud artist to like
To like I don't know, like a more established artist. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like this is like okay, like I can show my
Yeah.
skills and what I can make and what I like, but this isn't really a full polished idea yet. It's just me making a bunch of
Mhm.
songs,
I
you
think
know.
I think one thing to keep in mind especially is like there's
Mm.
a with you especially I've noticed there's always like a fine line between trying to both balance it as like good or kind of like good in the sense that like it's like easy listening because like
Mhm.
a lot of your songs tend to be like you know these really deep cuts which sort of are
Oh yeah.
really appreciated by artists like especially like
Yeah, I make producer music.
yeah if you look like for example when you did the song wars with Nistopia recently
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
song like that song is was really like just like
Mhm.
it's like a song that is like you can immediately say yeah that's a good song but also like if you think like a person listening maybe
Oh
it's
yeah.
not gonna be as easy for someone to like replay, which it kind of is
Mhm.
the antithesis of what art really means to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I wanted to see like, is there like ever that like struggle between like trying to make something that is both something you enjoy making and find fulfillment from and expresses you in a way, but also a way that like
Mhm.
you know
It's accessible.
people can listen to it no matter what genres they really
Yeah.
listen to.
That's sort of okay, cause like I definitely agree. During the Song Wars thing, I kind of realized, you know, like I make shit that people will be impressed by and like, you know, oh my god, it's crazy. But, you know, if that's it's a niche. It's a very, very niche thing,
Yeah,
right? And I feel like part of me is kind of scared that that's what like my career will be, which will be like, you know, it's it's a niche, you know. It's like
yeah,
how how many people are out there that aren't like music producers or music artists themselves that like this kind of very technically not tech like this very well, yeah, it's like technical, very kind of like these fucking methods in making music and shit that's like, "Oh my God, how did you make it?" You know?
Mm-hmm.
But like if my family heard it, they would probably not fucking know what's going on,
Yeah.
you know? So it's kind of like I think I'm still trying to find that balance. I think for the project I'm working on now, there seems to be like kind of two halves of it where there's the very accessible poppy kind of stuff like gain and loss. That's very
Mm-hmm.
easy.
Yeah.
Um a couple other things that I've made. And then there's the other half which is like more of the darker kind of grittier sound designy kind of like the thing that people really liked from me last year like was spectacular and shit,
Yeah.
you know. So it's kind of like I don't know. There's it's trying to find a balance in it is really hard, but I will definitely say that the Song Wars kind of made me think about if I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna make music for a bigger audience at some point, I definitely either I need to force people to like it somehow, or I need to find a way
Mm-hmm.
to blend it in that makes it easier for people. And obviously, I think making it easier for people is probably the better solution
Yeah.
because not everyone will like, you know, what I make and that's fine. But I definitely want to expand the
Mm-hmm.
audience I can have because I I definitely want to make more accessible music to people that is like I don't know, it's really hard.
I think to an extent, like what kind of an issue there is it's kind of like the fact that music is such a deeply like personal thing, and like as goes
Mhm.
for all kinds of art. Like you have artists who create things as like an expression of themselves, and by extent
Oh yeah, definitely.
that's kind of like what they have to what not really what they have to do, but it's like the most authentic way they can view themselves. um
Mhm.
but then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got these people who are a lot more numbers driven, and like driven by
Yeah.
like
Oh
the
yeah.
monetary aspect, because like at the end of the
Mhm.
day, we all need to eat somehow, and a lot of people want to
Exactly, yeah.
create art in their music in order to be able to eat, right? And
Mhm.
I think the biggest problem with that is that like how do you bridge that gap between something which personally fulfills you and also something which you're able to like actually like have a lot of people listen to. And I think last year
Yeah.
you did do that fairly well, because like you see things like Spectacular was,
Oh yeah.
even though it's like one of those more technical kind of songs, and like it's very sound designy,
Mhm.
people still like it still had a huge like market.
For
Like there was a
sure.
lot of people who
Yeah.
listened to that song. And so I think it's more so like trying to find that niche and expanding on it in a way that makes it more kind of like accessible for people outside of that niche.
Yeah, definitely. I think Flawless honestly was like the the closest I was able to get to that where it
Yeah.
was me doing, you know, these kind of things that I've learned, you know, weird techniques that I don't know. I mean, a lot of people do them, but like in my style. And it was poppy, you know. I mean, I would say Flawless is a really nice pop song in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah.
Catchy, and I think if I'm gonna keep doing that, it would have to be that kind of blend of something that's memorable. Because I will say that I think Spectacular and Flawless, those two were like they got that attention and that like love because it aside from it being like oh it's produced crazily or it's it sounds good, it's catchy.
Yeah.
Like people will fucking I've heard the I feel spectacular shit like all the time.
Yeah.
Like in my DMs and shit or in calls, people will just say it randomly.
Yeah.
And it's like I think if I'm gonna do that in my music, I need to make sure that it's memorable.
I guess kind of by extension, I wanted to talk a bit more about like sort of not just the music side, but also just like logistically as an artist. You know, you see a lot of people
Mhm.
now, especially, they're kind of these like artists who focus a lot on promotion and stuff. And
Yeah.
especially when it comes to promotion, a lot of people are turning to like, you know, the kind of promotion. It's like the kind of like corny TikTok promo where it's like, did I
Oh
just write the song of
yeah.
the summer? And I remember
Dude, oh
seeing
my god.
I remember seeing on Lynn's story, uh she put her thoughts on it, and it was kind of like there's no need to sort of fake that sort of persona if the music speaks for itself. And I wanted to get like your thoughts on that. Like,
Oh no, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with what Lynn said, and I think to see people in the underground kind of treat it as like I have to put on this persona and I have
mm-hmm,
to promote a certain way and I have to make it look like what people will like for me to get further. I think that's kind of nasty. I
mm,
feel like if it's if the music is true to yourself and you are true to yourself, then you will naturally get that attention
yeah,
because the most different shit you can do is be yourself.
mm-hmm,
That is the number one different thing you can do nowadays because everybody wants to be someone else, you know.
mm-hmm,
It's making what will get attention and then it doesn't, and it's like, you know, I don't I don't understand it really. I get if you want to get big cuz I personally I make music for the love of music and I always will. But I've had my goal set that I want to make this my career, you know? Like I want to make money off of this music shit because I love it so much and I want it to be the only thing I need to do in this life, you know? Like I don't want to sit in like a job and waste my life away. I want my job to be making music for people to listen to.
yeah,
So it's kind of like, but these people, as much as they probably love music and they make music because they love it, part of it feels like they're giving into trends to get them to a place where they'll be satisfied now, immediately, you know,
yeah,
without being sort of patient and being themselves. Because I feel like it's more rewarding to see what you love give back, you know? Like if I'm putting out music and it's what I love and eventually it picks up,
mm-hmm,
that'll be way more rewarding than me giving into these trends or whatever and then
yeah,
getting big off of something that I don't love.
mm-hmm.
Because then it's like I kind of failed what I wanted to do, which is make what I love.
It's kind of like half. Like being like half satisfied. Like, yeah, the numbers are there, but is it doing something that you
Yeah.
truly enjoy? Because
I think yeah.
it goes from art being like a passion or like uh I don't know, kind of like
A business venture.
a way for you to express yourself in a way and stand out from other people, and it just becomes like it becomes more like corporate, and that's kind of
Yeah,
what.
exactly.
And you know, nowhere does it feel like that bad as it does in the underground, ironically, because a lot of people will just like
Mhm.
bite the same flows and do the same kind of promo and use the same kind
Mhm.
of shitty AI generated like Triller videos and stuff
Dude,
like that.
exactly. That
And
stuff is so bad.
it kind of like upsets you, especially like yeah, you got the numbers and the money's coming in, but like
Mhm.
when that trend is over, how effectively are you going to be able to hop to the next one?
Literally. Yes. Once you fall into that trap of you see it work once and you're like, "Okay, this is what works for everyone."
Mm-hmm.
And then like what in like 2 years you're not going to be doing the same trend because that trend's going to die out.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you haven't if you're not doing your I'm not saying that it's wrong to kind of go from one sound to another
I mean,
because
no.
that's what artists do,
Yeah.
but when you make music in hopes of, okay, how can I get the most attention, and then that attention moves to something else, you're always going to
Mhm.
be chasing something,
Yeah.
which is a problem because then you're never going to be satisfied. I mean, I feel like in music you're never going to be satisfied, but it's in a different way where you're going to always chase the best thing you can do and the most, true to yourself thing you can do. But when it comes to like trying to chase numbers and, you know, go after these trends that will get you bigger and bigger, it doesn't satisfy you because it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem fulfilling to make art that
Yeah.
doesn't reflect you.
Mhm.
And you're always going to wonder why. And the answer is because you're not being true to yourself. That's the main thing that gets a lot of people, and I've seen it recently now with a lot of the underground.
Yeah.
It is so it's become like slop at this point on how
Mhm.
people will treat their music basically. It's like they're trying to be the next blank. They're trying to do what blank did. All that shit. They're just trying to do something that someone else already did, and that because they did it and got big, it'll work for you, which is
Mhm.
not true.
Yeah. And I mean, to an extent, I understand like the idea of like, oh, people who want to do music like for like attention purposes and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like, that's also a perfectly valid reason. You don't need like a specific reason to do music. You can just make music because
Oh yeah.
you want to make popular music. It's just more so a sense of like, to what extent does it go from making music to being like any other job? Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like what I've seen happen to people that go from the underground to mainstream stuff is like a lot of them happen to speak out later on and say, this shit will get you tired. It'll get you,
Mm-hmm.
you won't be happy. The music industry fucking sucks.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
you're not going to be doing what you love because it'll be people in a business telling you what to do,
Yeah.
you know? And I get that, like, people will want to make popular music. I mean, that's why pop music exists and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But I feel like there's certain ways to do it. And I think people now, in at least this generation, need to kind of break through that norm of what, makes something like I feel like there needs to be a break in what makes art meaningful between like people try to argue that because a song has numbers that it's better, which is not true.
Yeah.
It's about the artistry. It's about what the person was trying to convey and how they feel and why they made the art. And I feel like people now in this generation kind of need to put a focus on making shit that's meaningful and being independent
Mm-hmm.
and taking more control over what should be the norm in art
Yeah.
in general because it's gotten to a point where like the industry I feel like everyone knows now that the industry sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's there needs to be a change.
I think there's like a big stigma around just SoundCloud, especially in general,
Oh yeah.
because like, people aren't going to take you as seriously if you say, oh, I make music, and then you give them like a SoundCloud page to go to or
Mhm.
something like that. But also a lot of
Yeah.
people, they're like kids, and they don't like they don't
Yeah, they
they
don't
don't
have
they don't
that like
have like the
access.
ability or access to like put their stuff up on Spotify or on Apple
Yeah.
Music or all these things. And so like, I don't know, like I just wanted to see like, what are your kind of, how do you feel about like the sort of stigma around sort of SoundCloud and SoundCloud artists in general? Like, I know SoundCloud's a pretty terrible platform, but just like the artists on
Yeah.
it in general.
Um, I will say that a lot of people. I mean, yeah, it's crazy how people nowadays think that like the SoundCloud rapper like stereotype still exists
Mm-hmm.
because it's that shit. I mean, it obviously does. There's people that still do that, but I feel like that stigma around, oh, since you're not able to do it in like the old ways where you'd get signed and then you start your like. I feel like it being
Mm-hmm.
more accessible now is probably the best thing that has happened to like music in a long time. Like ever since 2020 when SoundCloud was kind of back in the main focus of like the underground, you know.
Yeah.
It was the best thing to happen. It's why we have a lot of good artists now
Mhm.
because it became so accessible and for people to kind of look down on these kids making music on SoundCloud. It's kind of like, well, do you like art or do you just want like, you know, more popular industry slop, you know?
Yeah.
It's like if you really care enough about music, you will be happy that it's being made in any form.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
exactly.
feel like that's that stigma against, you know, even though SoundCloud sucks as a platform and has been going downhill for quite a while now, I feel like it's still very important to the creation of artists now because there's no other way to do it. You don't get signed anymore, really. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, a lot of shit is independent now, or if you do get signed, it's by, you know, people that understand how things have changed,
Mhm.
you know? And it's kind of like, yeah, it's, I don't know. I feel like I think people need to be more open minded about the way that people are able to create their own art.
Moving a bit away from like that, I wanted to go back to sort of like
Hmm.
talking about, you know, you as an artist and just your music in general. So like
Yeah.
walk me through like I know it's usually quite a sporadic process, or like it's not very normal all the time, but like walk me through like
Hmm.
how a Trustt song gets to be made, and it doesn't have to be specific, like, you know.
Yeah. I think, okay, that is so, it's so hard to like, it's so hard for me to make music, bro. I swear. It's the way I work is so based on how I feel and what I'm listening to at the moment.
Mhm.
But I will say that I usually get inspired by maybe a few songs or an album.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'll try to like replicate it to the best I can. And then I'll be like, okay, what works? And then I'll make it in my own style, you know?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of music is basically just, you know, what inspires you and then you remake it in your own thing. That's kind of how music works.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I start a song, I don't know, I'll maybe take a sample or I'll get chords that I think, like, if it's chords from another song that I love and I could repurpose them and like interpolate them into something else.
Mhm.
Or there's a vocal melody that I really like that I'm like, okay, how can I make this into something that would be new, you know,
Yeah.
for me at least, or like, you know, if it's something if it's something that really holds like on to me and I can't get it out of my head, I need to put it down immediately because then
Mhm.
I'll forget. So that's why I make music so like sporadically. It's because I have so many ideas and so many inspirations that
Mhm.
it's like, I don't know. I when I start something, it's always just because I have like a little idea that's like, oh, that actually that's really fun, or like that sounds
Mhm.
really good, you
Yeah.
know. Like I never start songs really seriously thinking, okay, I'm gonna make a fucking banger on purpose, you
Mhm.
know. It's like it's always just me kind of trying something new, and that's always what makes the best songs for me, I think.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, I guess we could also talk about recently, at the time of recording this, I think it was like yesterday or 2 days ago, you were
Yeah.
on the Nistopia Song Wars, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And I just wanted to talk to you about like how different was the process there than it was, for
Oh
example,
man.
compared to like when you're normally making a song
Yeah.
or something.
Man, it was so stressful for some reason. I feel like
Mhm.
given a time frame and kind of the expectation, oh, you're gonna make something that's gonna win and you're gonna do something crazy. I feel like that was really stressful to me. I
Mhm.
feel like making, because at first I made something and it was a work in progress thing and I was like, okay, I made it like, and I was like, I don't really like it when I made it. So then I made another thing like a few days before the song was like gonna happen. And what really helped me was I went on a walk like the
Mhm.
night before I started the song, and I listened to an album that I was like really inspired by at the time. It was
Mhm.
I forgot what album it was. Oh no, it was Inf by Carbine.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I was like, okay, this is what I was listening to when I was first like kind of like last year when that album came out. I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm inspired, and I was in my best workflow. I think I was making the stuff I really enjoyed, and I think that kind of pushed me to make what I made for the Song Wars. And also at the same time, I just made a song that I really, really love.
Mhm.
It kind of brought me back to it. It forced me to make something that felt more true to myself instead of trying to make something to impress other people.
Yeah.
So then that's kind of why, like, I made the song and I didn't win. I mean, obviously, because, it's more of it's one of those kind of sound. It's that sound where it's like really intangible. What, not intangible, but it's like, it's not like a mainstream pop song or
Yeah.
anything. It's what I love.
It's more like a your favorite artist's favorite artist kind of song.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's that type of shit. So, I mean, as much as I would have loved to win, I didn't. But I got a song that I'm releasing on Friday out of it because I
Mhm.
love the song so much.
Yeah.
And it's another thing that's gonna probably be on my album. And it's just a song that I really love. So I mean, having that pressure, although it helps and it pushes me, I can't work like that because then
Yeah.
it'll always, I don't know, it'll always make things hard to like have that kind of expectation on myself to make something so good to impress others.
I wanted to talk a bit about recently, especially on like for example the cover of the song. It
Mhm.
features, bass growl, and I wanted to ask
Oh
like
yeah.
what significance does that have to you? Is that like the name of the album? Is that more just like a kind of like catchphrase kind of thing? Like what
The
does it
the
really
bass
mean
growl
to you?
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bass growl too. Honestly, I randomly not too long ago, I was trying to come up with a username for something. I think it might have been either for a game or just like my Steam name.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, Bass Growl 2, that sounds cool. But I think in my mind, I don't know. I was like listening to like just a bunch of fucking like dubstep and shit. Dubstep has
Yeah.
had such a fucking impact in my life. It's insane.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I didn't think about it too hard, but the just Bass Growl 2, I don't know. It's to me it doesn't have much of a deeper meaning, but if I try to make a deeper meaning out of it, it's literally just for my love of, dubstep. I
Yeah.
love making music inspired by that, because
Yeah.
I mean, dubstep was probably one of the most influential genres of my childhood.
Mhm.
So to kind of have, bass growl as like, I mean, that was such a prevalent sound in that music, obviously, the bass
Yeah,
growl.
exactly.
It's like, it's something I still love. And it's kind of silly to have that like be a thing because I mean, it's just a username. I really just did it randomly.
Yeah, well, some things just don't really need to have a deeper meaning. Like, not everything you
Yeah,
say and do needs to have like some sort of deep meaning. So,
exactly.
and especially if it's just like such like a little way of showing like or of like just having a name that is like directly inspired by something that you deeply care about. That's still like really
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. And I think yeah, it being on like the cover art and stuff is really just because like I don't know, it feels like a username kind of thing where it's just giving it a
Mhm.
title just to call it something. It's not the name of the album,
Yeah.
but the version of the cover art that I have for the album right now, it has the text on it because it's just, I don't know, it just feels like something that looks cool, and I
Yeah.
think it's a really it's a cool like thing to have just to associate it with, really.
Obviously, like throughout like the last 2 years, you've
Mhm.
Well, since like the start of 2024, so we'll say the last year.
Yeah.
It's been like kind of where your drops tend to be like quite infrequent in the sense that it's like every couple months is like
Yeah.
another Trustt song. And so I wanted to ask two
Mhm.
questions. One is like, how easy is it for you to stay consistent with music? Because even if you're not releasing music, like if you're working on it or something like that, and
Yeah.
also, like second, like how much do you personally really believe in like quality over quantity and that idea of like not
Oh
having a
yeah.
song like maybe I'm not dropping every week but I'm dropping a song like I'm dropping a song that I really love every like couple months or something like that.
Yeah. I think I definitely think that quality over quantity is the the way to go for me, at least.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people tend to kind of just drop songs randomly and, promote them or not, and they kind of are like, oh, SoundCloud sucks. I'm not big yet or whatever. And it's like, well, is the music good, and
Mhm.
are you putting care into it to push it out there?
Yeah.
And I think for me, dropping very randomly, that I mean, because that was literally every drop I made last year was all the music that I completed. I spent a lot of time on every single song I dropped, and I think other than those songs that I released last year, I didn't really finish anything else because I just put a lot of work into it.
Mhm.
I think this year I've made probably I'm working like 10 times faster, and I have so much more unreleased music now, and I'm trying to kind of discipline myself to be like not dropping every single thing like every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you know? Because then I'll end up hating it, or I'll end up wanting to change it over and over again.
Mhm.
And yeah, but I think it is at least for me, I'm in a spot where I think it is a good idea to try and drop more, because every time I drop, you know, I get more attention, and I get more followers, and more people hear my music, and I'm not doing it for that, but I think since I want to make music my thing in my career, I think it's a good idea to try to put myself more out there,
Yeah.
promote more, make more, or drop more music, and I really need to try to push myself out there now, but I'm still always gonna be quality over quantity, because everything that I've made that is unreleased, I still have worked really hard on, and stuff that has been worked on for maybe a couple weeks, or a month, or stuff like that. And I mean, even with the new song that's coming out on Friday, even though I made it in like maybe 4 days, I think I spent over a full complete like 25 hours working on it. Like if I were to work
Mhm.
on it nonstop for 24 hours, 25 hours, I feel like even then, I think that is the kind of it has the quality of a song that I would have worked on for like multiple weeks. I just had to finish it fast.
Mhm.
And I mean, it really just depends on what the song's going to end up being, but I I need to learn how to not overwork, and try to perfect things, because that is the one thing that I think that stopped me last year, is trying to be a perfectionist in everything I dropped.
Yeah.
That's probably why I didn't finish the first idea I had for my album last year, because everything had to be consistently perfect, and that just didn't work.
Mhm.
So I needed to really kind of discipline myself on trying to be okay with making things in the moment, and being okay with errors later,
Yeah.
because that's what makes it more human, I guess. Yeah.
Especially like in this year, you finally like graduated from high school and everything, and
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
meant that you had like a lot more time to spend on music as opposed to having to go to high school
Mhm.
every day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess to that extent, like, how has it been trying to separate yourself more so from like constantly working on music, because it's not like something that you kind of like have to do 24/7 and like overwork yourself. It is something that you
Mhm.
take time and passion and care with.
Yeah. I think graduating at the end of last year was really important for me, at least because now I have that time to work on music. But now I have even bigger focuses, like I have, I've been looking for work, I have to support my family
Yeah.
in any ways I can. And it's kind of like, yeah, I have more time, but if I want to make music the career that I have to put a lot of effort and time into it. So it's kind of finding a balance of like, do I get a job and then use my time for that to make as much money as possible to support myself and my family, or do I like sit in my room all day and make music and hoping that it works out and I'm like, I'm able to get where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a little hard. I'm glad that I finished high school, obviously. But now it kind of opened the door to bigger kind of responsibilities that I'm not sure I'm ready for, but I need to be. So, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that paired with making music, it's like, yeah, I mean, I really need to figure that out.
I guess tying into that, it kind of like a lot of people say like the best thing that they did like teenage years was kind of starting like doing things like making music or like doing
Mhm.
doing
Yeah.
visuals and stuff like that. And me personally, I never really subscribed to that. Like when I didn't really start working on visuals until I was like 18 or 17 or something like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like I started like quite a lot later than a lot of people, and like even though that's still like quite a young age, a lot of people see that as like, oh, like that's like an old you're like a bit old to be starting something like for the first time
Oh
when you should be
yeah.
focusing more on like a career or something like that. And
Mhm.
like, how much do you believe in that idea of like, uh helping like you starting out when you were really young like helped you?
Mhm.
Because like 2018 you were like what, like maybe
I
like
was
12, 11, something like that.
I was turning 12
Yeah.
into I think there's no like age limit where you can start making what you want, because I mean expression is still expression no matter what age you are.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting that head start did help. I think also I really really started um focusing on music quarantine when I went into freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm not gonna lie, I think I stopped caring about school because I made music. And as much as like parents maybe don't want to hear that, I think it's like my focus went so much into trying to make what I loved and express myself that I genuinely kind of lost the interest in school, because I mean, when I was younger, I was one of those like, oh, top of the class. I did all my work perfectly and shit.
Yeah.
And then like there's issues, and then quarantine happened. And I was like, you know what? I genuinely I've lost the love for being, such a scholarly person, that I
Yeah.
just want to express myself now. And music, I mean, I think getting that head start really, in a way, it kind of did stop me, because I left normal high school like classes and stuff. I switched into an independent study thing where I would work at my own pace, and I would go to like a center, you know, and yeah, and because I couldn't sit in class and focus, and I was depressed and shit. And all I was able to do was just sit in my room and make music, and that's like all I could do.
Yeah.
And I think even though I barely finished high school, I think I found I think it's like it's a blessing in disguise almost, because like, I didn't finish high school the traditional way, and I didn't like walk, and I mean, I got my diploma and stuff, but it wasn't like what probably my parents expected or my family expected of me.
Yeah.
But I gained the opportunity to like kind of have that head start in a musical career before the age of 20,
Yeah.
when I was a teenager. And I think it's like it really depends on what your family is like. I mean, my mom is like my number one supporter ever, and like all my family believes in me and stuff, and that's great. Um, but I think it does kind of suck though that like people think that once you're a certain age and it isn't working out for you, quote unquote, that you should stop, you know, or
Mhm.
that like, oh, you're too old to keep doing this if you aren't like famous already, or you're making good money or living off of it. I think people need to understand that like the norms of getting a job and supporting your society, or being like a good citizen that's like a working class, I feel like that kind of needs to be looked at again and think like, okay, well, when we die, it's we all go to the same fucking place. One You're gonna make all this money wasting your time doing something you don't love in a job, and then you're gonna die and we're gonna be in the same ground, you know
Mhm.
I'm just gonna have had made music and had fun, and even if it doesn't work out, I spent time with my friends. I made music. I played like a couple shows, and I had a lot of happiness doing it.
Mhm.
So I think people need to kind of rethink how they see or how people expect others to treat you know, like what their hobbies versus, oh, get a real job. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what if my hobby is what I want to do for the rest of my life? What if that's what I want my real job to be,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? So it's like, I don't know. I feel like it sucks that people are so close-minded about um like starting your art at any age, and if it doesn't work out at a certain point that you have to switch your passions or whatever. And it's like so many people gave up on their dreams. I want more people to make art, and I will always advocate for art being made in every form possible. But I think as long as it's for the right reasons, and it's not for I feel like you should be making art to benefit like art, instead of trying to just be kind of selfish, and want money and fame, because that's not I feel like if you want to make music for the fame and the money, then you're you're not an
You
artist in
yeah,
my in my
you're more
mind.
like a business, to be
Yeah,
honest.
you're a businessman, or you're just trying to get some money
Mhm.
and live easy, which I feel like I will say too that I feel like living in easy circumstances doesn't create the best art. I feel like
Yeah.
you need to have troubles, and I mean, you don't have to, but I feel like with experience and struggles makes the most raw and pure art.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think, if you're just trying to make money, and, there's not really other like love for music or art in general, then it's kind of like, well, what exactly does your art have to say?
Yeah. All right. So I think we're just gonna go to our final question.
Okay.
We've talked
Awesome.
about a lot. This one's a little more light-hearted.
Yeah.
We ask this to everyone at the end of interviews and stuff. So, theoretically, if you were to have a show happening near you, or like you
Mhm.
were organizing a show of some sort, who would your three main headliners be?
Number 1 would be Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably the most influential person in why I am doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So, Lynn, of course. The second person I'll say is 72 Crash.
Mm-hmm.
They are probably the most talented person I've seen come out in like the past year,
Yeah.
and I think they have the most they get it as like how I do, and it's crazy to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I love them. And I think the last person I mean, shit. I have to give it to Zave.
Hmm.
They are probably they're one of my closest friends, I'll say,
Yeah.
in recent years, and I think I've been listening to them for fucking ever since like 2022, 2020. Yeah, no, 2022. I've been listening to them and um getting to know them and them
Yeah.
showing me so much about music. I feel like they deserve to be there with me, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, they're like one of the
They're
most.
awesome.
Yeah, they're probably one of the most like helpful people to like a lot of artists and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like,
definitely.
so
I
yeah,
think yeah.
honestly, yeah, that's a fair three. And you know what? I think it's cool to end things there. So thank you very much for coming
Mhm.
on, Trust. You know,
Thank you for having me.
um, I will say, I don't know when this is coming out. I assume it's coming out on a Wednesday. So if it does come
Yep.
out on Wednesday, well, make sure to be there this Friday for when Trust's new song comes out. I don't remember the name, but
Yeah. It's Say It.
Say It, yeah. And that was previewed on the Nystopia Song Wars. So
Yep.
y'all should be ready for that. And yeah, all right, awesome.
Please tell me, can you tell that I'm insane? Please tell me, if you're not sure, then you always lose. Yeah, if you're not sure, then you always lose. Just give me something that I can't do.